I'm Matty.
And I'm Patty.
We're getting chatty.
About Street Fighter the movie, 1994. Jean-Claude Van Damme. So,
Definitely a cult classic, that's for sure.
it's something. Yeah. Something along those lines. Yes, yes.
It was a tough watch. Let me tell you, it was a tough watch.
I actually started watching this and then ended up just like going to sleep like first maybe 15, 20 minutes or something. Then I rewatched it earlier today.
Okay.
I did skip like a few parts, like things that aren't like too critical or whatever.
I watched the whole thing, so I was committed, but it took me like 3 or 4 hours to watch it because I just had to stop and like walk away for a bit.
yeah. This isn't a one sitting type of a film.
Yeah. So what's funny about that is that Justine, my wife, she was like, "Oh, I could watch it with you. Let me look into it." And she IMDb'd it, and like the score, she's like, "It doesn't get very good reviews." And I'm like, I'm aware this movie is not the greatest." And she watched maybe the first like 40 minutes with me, and she was like, "Yeah, babe, I can't do this."
Basically, yeah, same situation here for the most part. Yeah. So yeah, we're not. I don't think we're gonna get too in depth on this particular film. Really, there's not much like to the story. And actually, you know what? Where I usually like to start about like the more or less the history of this. So I didn't actually look up all the dates and all that stuff, but I think the main video game Street Fighter 2 came out probably like 91 or 92 something. Somewhere.
Yeah, because this movie is actually based on Street Fighter 2, not the first one.
Well, yeah, because Street Fighter, the first game, was kind of clunky. Really, it's these days on YouTube, whatever, you kind of hear about it because it's kind of fun talking about like bad games. But no, not that it was a particularly bad game at the time. It was okay, but it wasn't anything great. But Street Fighter 2, that was like a breakout, huge success, right? So yeah, definitely it's based on Street Fighter 2 more than anything else. From the video games.
Yeah, definitely more characters involved too.
Yeah. And that's actually what I'm going to pretty much focus on, more the characters, not so much the story. We'll touch on the story, but it's fairly simple for the most part.
Yeah, I guess just quick rundown of the story. Simple M. Bison, who's the main villain in the game and in the movie, he owns his own country essentially, or takes over his own country as a dictator, and he holds a bunch of people hostage, and he wants a $20 billion ransom from the AN.
Yeah, before you go on, so I kind of looked into this a little bit, not much, but so Bison's organization was called Shadaloo.
Yeah, Shadaloo, yeah.
And apparently it was supposed to be called the Shadow Law, but there might have been a translation error there or something like that. But either way, so Shadaloo is what it is in the movie. And when I looked it up on like the wiki for it, on the website, it said that Shadaloo is a criminal organization. So I think it's this criminal organization that took over either like a city or a country, because he did mention talking about like, taking over. We'll touch on actually that. Hopefully we'll mention that. But yeah. So I think he did take over a country, but Shadaloo itself apparently is just like his criminal organization.
Yeah, if memory serves, it looked like he was taking over Thailand on the map, but like it might also just be a fictional location. But anyway, so
I did try to like see what the map was, but I didn't like compare it to anything. But I'm not sure where it was based on like the map.
Maybe Vietnam. Vietnam.
I think part of it might have been in the buildings. Kind of looked like Cambodia, but like I said, it might have been like around Thailand and whatever. It was definitely around that like Southeast Asia.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what? Cambodia sounds the most right, to be honest. Yeah. But anyways, so he has these hostages, and he's looking for for $20 billion from like the world governments, and. Funny enough, Guile, the main character, Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's running an operations team that is trying to find out where M. Bison's hideout is and rescue the hostages. The only additional storyline within that kind of dynamic is there's two main ones. One with Ryu and Ken, where they're like arms dealers with Sagat and Vega. They get involved with M. Bison. And then you have the reporter, Chun-Li, E Honda, and Bullrog that are also investigating the M. Bison organization.
Yeah, they're kind of undercover.
Yeah. And then all their stories converge.
Yeah. Yeah, and then obviously, well, I guess we don't want to spoil it, but obviously there's a big fight at the end with those two groups, basically.
Yeah,
Kind of people end up, I think, kind of picking sides, if I'm not mistaken. But like you said, like Ryu and Ken were kind of like this middle ground.
Well, Ryu and Ken were this like they were technically bad guys in the movie in terms of just like being criminals, but they became spies for Guile.
Ryu and Ken being kind of this middle ground of kind of good guys, bad guys. Again, like I said, they were kind of framed a little bit more as bad guys, I think, at the beginning anyway. But they were trying to sell weapons to Sagat, but they were just like Nerf guns.
Yeah, for sure.
Something like that. So I don't know if they were just trying to, like, are they just profiteers or something?
Well,
like
no,
that?
Guile goes into it in one of the scenes where he says, you guys are con men that only steal from bad guys.
Okay. So they're kind of like Robin Hoods.
Well, Robin Hood's for
right?
personal gain.
I thought it was like take from the rich and give to the poor or something like that. I guess guess that doesn't have anything to do with like take from criminals, but okay, well, whatever. So they take from criminals, so they're more like a Dexter then, I guess. Right?
Well, I would say, because they're not giving it to the poor, they're just taking it for themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, so
right.
They're
so
con
no
men for they're con men for criminals. Well, you know what bugged me most about this movie? And
everything.
Justine also nails it. She says the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't. It's not like obviously it's an action movie, but was it a bad attempt at comedy, or was it trying to be serious? Like it didn't know what it wanted to be.
Yeah, because there's definitely like, I wouldn't call it a comedy, but there was definitely levity in it. There was definitely like things that were supposed to be funny in it, and I think they it was good for like a quick chuckle. I think it's nothing like laugh out loud hilarious, but so I think the thing is that this was probably aimed at kids. I'm assuming, or like young teens.
Maybe.
So they kind of tried to get like a PG rating out of it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's why there was no like blood or anything.
Yeah, and a little bit of comedy sprinkled in. Actually, I think there was blood.
It was fake blood.
It was, actually, you're right. It was fake blood. Okay. You got me. But yeah, and I was kind of thinking of the Mortal Kombat movie, for example, which had a couple like jokes in it, but for the most part, it was a serious movie. Right?
Yeah.
The original Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah. So just let me interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
I know viewers are probably interested in why I have antler ears on my head and like they're Christmas themed. Yeah, they're Christmas themed, but I'll get into that at the end of the episode, and I'll explain exactly why I'm wearing them. It's a fun fact with regards to the movie. So.
Yeah, can't wait. We'll set aside some time for it at the end there. So, broke my train of thought here. What were we talking about?
Oh, we were just talking about Street Fighter 2.
Oh, kidding me. Am I right? Back to this, I guess. No, anyway, so we're just saying that Mortal Kombat was a lot more serious movie with a little bit of, a couple jokes here and there.
You know what? And I found Mortal Kombat to have a more succinct storyline. I guess it's kind of difficult. Do you recall which one came out first, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
I'm not completely sure, but I almost think Mortal Kombat movie was probably first. Oh, you know what? I don't know. I don't think so, actually. It feels like maybe 1995 was the Mortal Kombat movie.
Well, what
I
Mortal
know Street
Kombat
Fighter 2, the game came out before Mortal Kombat, the game. So.
Yeah. What I think Mortal Kombat did well is that the game was about a tournament. and they fought in a tournament style where like the movie was about the fighting, whereas what I think Street Fighter lacked here, the movie wasn't about the fighting. It was a storyline about some hostages and a hostage rescue attempt, and the fighting was almost secondary. So you're taking the element of what players loved about the game completely out of the movie.
Yeah. And with that said, I think like I don't even know what the story in Street Fighter 2 was to begin with, and like in the video game. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, don't know either.
Yeah, like Mortal Kombat, the video game, there wasn't like a lot of story. Don't get me wrong, but everyone did have their endings with like their little like storyline at the end. So like I said, it was basically a tournament that that people were brought into, whatever. But I'm not sure what Street Fighter 2 was even about. It was just a bunch of people fighting, and presumably it was a tournament or like a world championship kind of thing because every character represented a different country.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of weird.
And I guess maybe that's kind of what makes it maybe a little harder to make a Street Fighter movie.
But they could have done it more like a blood sport format.
They could have. Now, actually, you know what? I should say, and I seen this like a few months ago, but there's actually, and I think it came out maybe a year later, there's actually a Street Fighter animated movie that's like a full-length, hour and a half, 2-hour movie.
Interesting.
And it was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty good. I'm not saying like world class, like best movie ever, nothing like that, but certainly better than the live action movie. And it was like the hand drawn style like animation back in the day. Like I said, that came out roughly like a year later or something like that.
Yeah. Jeez, I hope this channel just doesn't devolve into just us watching horrible movies and making fun of them.
No. Next one will be a good one. Just trust me.
Because I'm already thinking of doing Dragon Ball Z live action. And that dumpster fire.
All right, well, we'll sprinkle in a couple good ones in between, maybe. I don't know. But all right, yeah. So I guess before this drags on way too long, let's I guess start getting to the main point. So you did run down the main like storyline. Like I said, I'm not going to touch too much on that, but I mainly want to talk about like what took me to what brought me to this game. So first of all, I was into fighting games a little bit around the time. Like Mortal Kombat was big at the time.
Yeah.
And those are really the only two. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, I feel like, were really the only games at the time until
a little later on. A little later on, Tekken did come up.
Yeah, Tekken came in, and there was a few. Virtua Fighter, like for the Sega systems, came out.
Yeah. There were a few.
There was other good ones that came out after, but these, like, I think, kind of like really started the genre.
Yeah, these two are the proverbial Mario and Sonic.
Essentially, yeah. And for me, though, it's like a big thing is the characters, right? Again, there's not a whole lot of story in this. A little bit in Mortal Kombat. I don't know what Street Fighter had for story, but because I know there was like a story there too. But mainly for me, it's the characters, and that's kind of what I wanted to discuss. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to start with is M. Bison. That's the first character that you see in the movie. Yeah,
I think that was to be honest, out of a pretty lackluster movie, I think M. Bison was the best casting for that movie.
100%.
He played that really well, actually.
Yeah. So this was Raul Juiia was the actor, and if I'm not mistaken, this is actually his last movie role. There might have been like one thing after that came out, maybe, but this is basically at least one of his last movie roles.
Now,
and like I said, I think casting. Sorry, go on.
Was he the father in the Addams Family?
I believe he was in one of the Addams Family movies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, like you said, great casting on this. I think it's one of the more accurate characters in the movie, based from the video game.
Yeah.
So the suit was almost like right on. I don't look at the minor details, but for what it was, I think it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And it was in my opinion, probably the best quote unquote modernized version of his outfit in terms of like like the old school Batman was just like a rubber suit, and the new school Batman was like almost like an Iron Man type thing with like all these gadgets, armored and stuff. And the new school stuff looks awesome for sure, but it's not like quote unquote true to the character. Even if you look at like Adam West's outfit, it was like clothy versus like Michael, or what was his
Michael
name?
Keaton, probably.
Michael Keaton's like rubber
Yeah.
suit. So for M Bison, it was, I would say it was that fine line between the old school and the new school, where it was still like almost like rubbery, but it had a lot of cool elements that you would say would belong to more like the new school superhero costumes.
Yeah, yeah, and quite honestly, I'm not that into the new superhero stuff, and I actually haven't played really any Street Fighter game beyond Street Fighter 2. So I'm actually not even sure what they ended up doing with M Bison, but yeah, no, I think the costume work on that was pretty good, like a standout for this particular movie.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to comment, well, a few things on M Bison though is this you saw mostly at the beginning. But I guess he fights in Steven Seagal's fighting style, where he just like breaks the guy's neck right away.
Yeah, that was good.
There was like 2 or 3 guys that he just took out like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Later on in the film, he had a picture of himself, like Napoleon Bonaparte, like on on like a horse.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Another thing was he had this like personal flying craft.
Yeah,
and it kind of reminded me of like what Bowser had in the Mario game for Super Nintendo.
Right, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the reason they had that is in Street Fighter 2. That's like one of his entrances. Is he flies in on that thing? I think. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember it from like the game, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I thought he like just started out with like a little cape thing and did that thing like the foot soldiers in the Turtles game did. Ha ha!
Maybe I might be wrong.
I'm not sure. I haven't actually played the game in quite a while, and I was more of a Mortal Kombat guy than Street Fighter back then. Anyway, though, I thought that device was funny. Another funny thing about that device too is the like controls for it were like literally like the Street Fighter 2 arcade system.
Yeah, it was. When I saw it, I'm like, oh my god, this is so bad. This is so bad.
But that I think is like a fun little like Easter egg though. You know what I mean?
But it ruins the immersive and that's the problem here. And that's what I'm saying is like, do you want it to be immersive? Yeah, it goes back to it doesn't know what it wants to be. If it was a straight up comedy, then they should have made it more obvious. And then Easter eggs like that would only enhance it. But if they wanted to make it serious, then making it look like a video game pulls you out of the immersion. So So it's like they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do, and I think that's why the movie flopped so hard.
Well, yeah, it has. Yeah, I mean, it actually wasn't entirely like a flop. Actually, it happened to run by the numbers, and
I don't mean like an economic flop. I just mean
sure. It just wasn't a fantastic film, but it did. I think it cost about $35 million, and it made about $66 million. So. But again, it's like you said, it doesn't have to be a good movie. Like, I didn't go see it back in the day. And I did see this in movie theaters back in the day with some friends. You might have been there even, I can't remember now.
Yeah, but, I can't remember.
I'm not sure where you were in '94, actually. But anyway, regardless, I went to see it because I played the video game. And I liked the characters, basically, right? So,
yeah.
But anyway, so moving on. Do you have any other comments on Bison? I think we touched on Bison pretty good.
No, we can go to Guile. What a terrible casting.
So here's what's funny about Guile, and I did mention this to you a few days ago, but when I was a kid playing the video game, I think I told my dad maybe, I can't remember exactly, but like I thought that was like Van Damme in the game, basically. And they all laughed at me, whatever. Are you kidding me? That doesn't make any sense, whatever. But then he ended up playing Guile in the movie.
Well, it doesn't make sense because Van Damme is what? He's like French or Dutch or something.
Belgian,
Belgian,
if I'm not mistaken.
And this is supposed to be an American soldier.
The muscles from Brussels. So that is true. The only leeway I'll give it is that Americans can come from like any nationality, essentially.
Sure,
So
but the voice
I know what
actor
you
in the
mean.
game, it was like hardcore American, and like Van Damme has an
Oh yeah,
obvious accent,
no,
and
definitely, definitely, yeah,
like in the game, he's got this wild buzz cut hairstyle
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like super blonde, and it was
It
just it
feels
was just
like
bad.
maybe, yeah, I'm not sure what the deal was there, but it almost feels like Van Damme didn't want to do that hair. So,
Maybe, but they
and ultimately, I don't think it was a terrible decision to get Van Damme because he was probably like, he wasn't like a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone where he's like costing like a lot of money. I'm sure he made decent money back in the day at this point, but he is a name though. You get the name recognition, so I'm not sure who
that's
else would have
true.
been good
That's
to play this
true.
character.
You're not wrong. Name
Like in
recognition definitely has
retrospect, maybe
power.
Chuck Norris would have been good, but he
Oh
didn't.
yeah.
He would have to keep the beard though. Was the problem? So,
Hmm.
which I don't think the beard would have matched like the character. But I mean, we can discuss who could have been whatever. But I don't think it was entirely a bad choice. And the type of movie that it is, it's not a real serious movie either, like we were talking about. So
Hmm.
it could have been worse. Could have been worse. But yeah, like you said, so that's one of the things I want to mention. Yeah. Uh, what do you think about the accuracy of the character? Otherwise, I think overall it's okay, right? Because it wasn't a
Yeah, it
lot of
was
details.
okay.
Just yeah,
I'll
uh,
tell you one thing that
uh,
really bothered me about the movie.
everything. Go on.
Yes, but more specifically, whenever they made one like a special move or whatever,
Hmm.
like the character's special move, they didn't emphasize it like
Yeah.
as much as they absolutely could have. You know?
The only one I remember, I think, was Guile's like spin kick, that like air kick or whatever.
You mean the backflip kick thing?
Yeah, it was like a backflip kick. Yeah.
Well, they had almost all of them in the movie. I watched carefully. So
Hmm.
Chung Li does her flying kick at M Bison in their in his quarters or
Yeah.
bedroom, you want to call it. But
Yeah.
like it just looks like like a jump kick, a slightly longer
Yeah.
jump kick. Ryu.
Well, Ryu's got like the fireball, which I don't think they had in this, right? They didn't have any like supernatural moves.
They didn't, but they did. He did the pose with his hands, and it
Yeah.
knocked a guy back really far. And then Ken did his uppercut spin, which
Hmm.
was lackluster to say the least.
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I guess, like I said, the only one I actually remember is the guy all like thing, and a little bit maybe like Bison doing like the electric shock thing, if you want to consider that a special move. But
yeah. So that's
yeah,
the
yeah, the
only
other
one
ones
that was
didn't really like
like,
stand out.
yeah.
Yep.
So that was the only one that was like actually like quote unquote supernatural. But the way
Yeah.
they got about doing that is because Guile kicked Bison into the computer, right, and shocked the crap out of him.
No. He had that power. He said it was like electromagnets. Like
Oh,
super
right, that
like
was what made him
electromagnets or something.
fly and
So
stuff like yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So
So
it's just
he was able to
tech.
do that. There wasn't like a superpower that was within him. It
Yeah, it
was
was just tech.
technology basically. But
Yeah. I don't know.
uh,
They threw in a whole bunch of little ones that were like, in my
yeah.
opinion, just garbage. They should have just
To some
not
degree,
done
they
it.
did Blanca with like electrocuting somebody. It was off screen mostly, but they kind of did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fairly lackluster, like you said. Um, yeah, either way. The only other thing I wanted to mention on Guile is he did a callback to the Terminator 2. I don't
Did
know
he?
if you remember,
Where?
but like, well, so at the very end, or close to the very end, when like they think that he died in the explosion and all that stuff, then he ends up coming out at the after the last one to come out, and then he said, I can't remember exactly how he said, but he said that he needs a vacation, and that's
Oh,
what Arnold
yes.
said in Terminator 2.
Yeah, that I do remember that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's it for Guile, unless you have anything else.
Now he was all right. I guess we can
Yeah,
fly through the rest. The only other
yeah,
notable actor in this movie was Kylie Minogue as Cammy.
Yeah.
Being a pop star, singer, songwriter, whatever you want to call her. Her foray into the movies. It wasn't absolutely horrible. Just the one scene where she's like screaming, help me, get an ambulance," after the fake death scene. That was brutal. But the rest of the movie, she was fine.
Yeah, she was fine. Yeah, I'm not sure what else she was in, but I think she did a few other movies probably around that time or something like that.
Probably.
And actually, along with, we mentioned with Guile, how he's not from America. So she was supposed to be British in this movie, or at least working for like the British forces.
Yeah.
And I thought she was French this whole time. I looked it up. Do you know where she's from?
Kylie Minogue, the actual actress?
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah. She's from Australia.
Oh. Well, she couldn't put on a British accent?
Well, she didn't have a strong accent in the movie. She had a little bit, but I couldn't pinpoint it. I wouldn't be able to identify it as an Australian accent.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
She had a little bit of, maybe she made it a little bit more British for the movie. I don't know, because it's not far off. You know what I mean? They have some similarities there.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, yeah. So yeah, like you said, she was the only other notable actor in the film.
Yeah.
That I can think of, anyway, other than Raul, Juiia, and Van Damme, obviously. But yeah, not much else to her, I think, unless you have anything to
add. No.
Yeah, the only comment I have on my notes is played by Kylie Minogue, so we already touched on that.
You know what? I don't know. They didn't give her anything in terms of she didn't really fight anybody. She didn't do her signature move. At least I don't remember her doing it. Yeah, there was a lot of
she played a fairly decent role in the movie, had parts, but yeah, it wasn't too much fighting or anything like that.
Yeah, it didn't really showcase the character Cammy at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, a little disappointing there. Yeah. But overall, I mean, I don't know, for a movie that is trying to portray a bunch of martial artists, they had way too much explosions and gunplay.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. If they focus a little bit more on fighting, now fighting is maybe a little bit harder to choreograph and do properly, but there was some fighting. Don't get me wrong, but I think they should have focused on it.
They maybe could have used less of the budget on explosives and guns and put it more on choreography and good fights. Because even though they tried to do the whole one-on-one and different at the end, they try to have team ups where they do 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Even those fights were
it feels like they were few and far between and quick. Other than Guile and Bison, where it was a little bit of a bigger one, maybe. But
right, but the other ones were not very long. Yeah. They were not very well choreographed. I
think that's where you go into the Mortal Kombat movie, because they did actually stop the film basically just to have a fight scene. You know what I mean? Several times.
Exactly.
Fights, yeah.
And these were all broken up fights where there was no continuance.
Well, it was a random fight that broke out of kind of the circumstance, right? It wasn't nothing was set up as a fight or anything.
Yeah, but even if it is happenstance fighting, you can still stop the movie to focus on that fight.
Oh, sure,
right?
sure. Yeah. But either way, I think we know where the quality of the film is as far as that's concerned. But yeah, back into the list of characters, just to move it along here. The other one I think that stood out to me is Zangief. He was also mostly comic relief, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, where he's we're not the good guys.
Yeah, that's one. And along with that, too, it's when I think it was DJ said that, oh, well, why were you working for him? Well, because he paid me a bunch of money. You were paid?
Yeah.
So apparently this guy was actually just a volunteer the whole time.
Yeah, that gives the vibes from that movie, We're the Millers, where everybody gets paid but a slightly lower amount, and then the quote unquote son in the movie is you guys were getting paid. That meme was pretty good, but yeah, no, it was Zangief was definitely one of the better comic reliefs in the movie, especially
definitely comic relief.
Yeah, I was gonna mention him anyways, with his fight with who did he fight? The big Samoan.
The E Honda probably.
E Honda, that's the one.
Yeah.
His fight with E Honda, where they do that, where they were like destroying the little village. They almost look, and they had like Godzilla sounds in the background. Like that could have been that could have been a funny scene if the movie didn't take itself so seriously. Because like that was like a bit of comedy gold, along with the you're getting paid. That was those were solid jokes, but fell to the wayside.
Then the other like joke kind of with them, not as funny as I think the other ones, but the like sideways thumb, and then Guile fixes it, points it up.
That was good too.
Yeah, as far as accuracy of the character, well, he was just like a wrestler. I think he just had like tights on in the game. So here he had like the whole like suit kind of thing that matched like Bison's other characters. He actually looked closer to Bison than himself.
Yeah, but he did end up being just in the shorts though.
Yeah,
he ripped off his shirt.
I think overall they did pretty good with this character. They definitely had like the beard and whatever. Like he had very distinct like hair and facial hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now Balrog, oh my god, Jesus!
Yeah, so Balrog
Christ.
was the guy that worked with E Honda.
Yeah.
I
don't know when.
Yeah, he was just.
I don't know when he.
The only note I have is he had a cool vampire hair. He had like the hair that kind of goes down on a point.
Yes, the widow's peak. But the problem with
other than that,
the problem with that is like he goes into this like villain's lair to go, and then the fighting starts. And then how does he get boxing gloves?
Well, I think he can just like form the boxing gloves. Like it's kind of like Wolverine's like claws. I think they just like come out of his skin and form around him.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely makes sense.
like how can you? I don't know. Okay, I can't with this movie.
I think that's enough said.
Yeah. I thought it was really clever how they got Chun-Li into a skimpy outfit. Now, they missed their mark by putting her in a red one instead of the classic blue that she wears in the game.
Yeah.
But it was clever because
I guess it like matched like Bison's thing because I guess Bison gave her that.
Yeah, I guess. But what I liked about it is like, okay, so this strong journalistic woman wouldn't naturally wear something like that to a villain's lair or whatever. But him forcing her to put something skimpy on is totally believable. I liked that aspect of it, but
it made sense.
It made sense, but like at the end of the day,
and to be clear too, that wasn't like overly revealing either by any means, right? Like it was actually quite covered up. So,
well, yeah, I think she even had leggings on, which is not what the character is supposed to look like. Yeah, but I don't know. It was just.
Well, again, they probably like kind of for a younger audience.
Oh yeah, true. Because it was a PG movie.
Yeah. And it's not even so much about like reaching PG because you can get PG, you can sneak that in. But they went like I think younger than probably even like the game was
intended for.
Was targeting, yeah. But anyway, moving on with the characters. So like I said, Chun-Li. All we know is she was a reporter undercover, I guess.
She did well as the actress. She did well
overall. It was, and she was like one of the bigger parts in it too.
Yeah.
E Honda, which you touched on earlier, but I thought he was Japanese in the game, but here he's Hawaiian.
Yeah.
But he's still a sumo wrestler though.
Yeah. So I don't know if the game did different or the movie did it differently just because they wanted that actor or something. I don't know. Kind of weird.
Yeah. No clue what they were thinking there. I guess it's the only actor they could have gotten, so that's who they happen to hire. So
maybe.
It's like, all right, let's just modify the role a little bit.
They did an okay job too.
He didn't have a huge part either, so he was just there. I think kind of. He had a couple parts where they focused on him, but because I was gonna say where they like caned him, but he didn't like feel it. Yeah. Because he says that sumo wrestlers can separate mind and body.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Blanca. So this was another kind of interesting one. Kind of like the only character in the game that's almost like a supernatural character. That's
Yeah.
not just a person. Well, Dalsim a little bit, but yeah. So in this movie, Blanca was just like a genetic experiment kind of thing,
Hmm.
where like a mutant experiment.
Now, correct me if I'm
Mm.
wrong, but didn't him and Dalsum end up dying in the movie?
It was insinuated that they died. Yeah,
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Like,
yeah,
yeah, Dalsum just ended up being like a complete joke of a character.
yeah, exactly. He didn't have stretchy arms or legs, nothing like that. He was
He
just
didn't
a
even
guy from India
fight.
that was a scientist.
He didn't even fight. All he did
No,
was take a beating and die with Blanca.
with Blanca at the end.
And
Yeah.
what the other thing that really bothered me with Blanca is like, he was supposed to be this freakishly strong,
Mm-hmm.
jacked, whatever, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they just used the same actor with body paint. It was so bad.
Yeah,
And
which I think this is where maybe budget was a restriction, but certainly they could have, yeah, maybe grabbed like a bodybuilder or something for that part of it.
although they absolutely could have. I mean, look at the movie,
Yeah,
the show, The Hulk. They had two actors playing the Hulk, Lou
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Ferrigno,
yeah,
and this was
yeah.
way early, like what,
No, for sure.
in the
Oh no,
'70s that
using
they,
just different actors isn't a big deal at all, right? So, or
especially if
just like, or use a big guy and just like don't show off his muscles or anything until later on or something. Whatever.
well,
They could have, yeah, done it better for
they
sure.
didn't even need to do that because if you look at Blanca before and after, he had a lot of face makeup on with
Yeah, that is
like
true. Yeah.
almost probably a bit of prosthetics glued to his face.
A
You
little bit,
couldn't
yeah, a
tell it
little
was
bit.
the same actor.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you're right.
it was absolutely poorly done.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, that one they
just
should have, yeah, probably used like somebody that was like a bodybuilder, like I said, and you don't need somebody that needs to act even. Like there was really very little acting that was done
well,
on
you
this
just had to be like,
character. I feel like, yeah, he's basically,
like,
yeah, yeah,
come
it
on,
wasn't.
me no evil. Like
They probably, yeah, could have found a guy.
it's
So yeah,
just
that sucked. Yeah, got Rio and Ken. We already touched on them a bit, so I guess they were just semi bad guys, whatever. Uh, and then who else did we get? So actually, some of the other characters I had in mind. So oh, sorry. One thing with Dalsum, what I'll say is in the game, I think he was supposed to be like a bit of a pacifist type of character. Obviously, yes, he was. It was a fighting game, so they had him fight for sure. But that part of him, I think, was okay that they made him like a pacifist kind of and taking responsibility for like being a good person that
yeah.
does nothing is still evil kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I thought it was
Yeah,
alright.
yeah, that's the only thing I'll say on that. But yeah, going to the other characters on Bison's side, so Sagat and Vega. So Sagat I thought was pretty cool in this movie in general.
Yes, and I thought they did Vega really well.
Vega was
Um,
also I think pretty good. Yeah,
I don't know. It's so strange. It's like we're gonna blow our budget on Vega and ignore Blanca entirely,
yeah.
and like,
And I feel
oh
like
my
Blanca
god,
is kind of like some people's like favorites. He's kind of a standout. It feels like I might be mistaken, but
in terms of player character,
yeah, like
yeah,
back in
for
the
sure.
day in the game, yeah.
It bothered me so much.
And everyone was wondering like, oh, how are they going to do Blanca because he is like the only like supernatural character. The other guys are just costumes essentially.
But
But
like
yeah, yeah. So
Vega's, it bothered me so much. We get this like introduction of who Vega is and
mhm.
how much of a badass fighter he is,
Yeah,
and
because even at first, like they walked into that
exactly the
fighting
fighting
pit,
ring,
they
and
didn't
he's
even
just
show
like,
Vega for like a little while.
yeah. But then they
Yeah,
like give him this like intro. We're about to like see this
yeah,
battle between Ryu and Vega in the ring, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. This is gonna be awesome. And then Guile just drives in the whole thing, and there's no actual fight. And
yeah.
it's like, oh, come on. They could have
Right.
given him a decent little fight
Yeah,
where,
you're all under arrest.
yeah, where, like, they could have given him a decent fight where at the
Yeah, you're right. Like a
end
summer
it
where they
gets
could have like stopped to do like a
interrupted.
fight scene. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, where in the end, like, Guile could have done the interruption and they
yeah,
didn't get to finish their fight, so they're eager at the end of the movie to finish their fight. That would have been dope, but they didn't even
yeah.
start the fight. It was just so dumb.
That's the thing. It's almost like they were trying to avoid the fight.
Yeah, it was so
Uh,
bad. It was just so
yeah, yeah,
bad.
yeah,
And then
yeah. Like
when
you
the
said,
fight did
the character
happen,
himself was good, but
yeah,
sorry, what was that?
when the fight did happen, it was lackluster as heck.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
because wasn't the fight really just like when they were kind of escaping, like in that truck
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So again, it was like something like you said earlier, where it was just kind of like meshed into like a larger action sequence, not like focusing on the fight.
Now focusing. Like they could have easily had some solid fights. I liked
Yeah.
the mashups. I liked the Ken versus Sagat. That was a good partnering. The Vega Ryu was great. Guile and Bison obviously a good choice. They had Blanca against who was it? Nobody.
I'm
Like
not even
nobody.
sure who Blanca ended up fighting.
Exactly. He just
Yeah.
fought some random dude, and it was like terrible. Like you could have had if you couldn't pair people up, you easily could have had someone like Blanca do this
Yeah.
like scene where he's like hulking out and just like annihilating a bunch of noobs. Right? That would have
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
been cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, E Honda
Yeah, I think really
and
the only action you saw from Blanca is when he did like to lift him up and electrocute him, but I think they electrocuted him off screen. That probably would have looked bad, so that was probably an okay choice for
probably.
that. But
DJ didn't fight at all. He was just a coward.
yeah.
And like it's just like they
Oh,
had
actually, yeah. What's funny about DJ though is when he escaped with like the crate at the end
the
with Sagan, and
bison
then it was
bucks.
just all it was all just bison bucks.
That was good. Like another
Yeah.
solid comedy that another solid like a little funny moment that would have hit harder and better if the movie was more committed to being a
If it was a
comedy.
bit more serious. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
if it was coming to be more comedy, you're saying?
yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
if they leaned more into it and like made it
Yeah.
obvious that it's a comedy. I don't know. They just
Yeah, I mean,
dropped the ball like crazy.
well, like I said, I think we would have to check out which I have watched it, but that animated cartoon was like a fairly serious. I don't remember any comedy in that animated one. It was like a fairly serious,
Right.
movie about Street Fighter. And again, I can't remember like this main storyline, but like I remember the movie was pretty good. So definitely a lot better than the live action ones. So I think it could have like taken notes from that
Yeah.
realistically.
It was just so like, anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can keep talking about this movie.
No, I don't think so. No, I think we're pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't have much more to say on
Neither
this
do
topic.
I.
To be honest with you.
Like, it just, I don't know whether it was the
Yeah.
first time they tried to do like a invisible boat on screen. I don't know. It was just like,
Yeah. Now another thing too with video game movies in general is they were generally not good up until like fairly recently. You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
generally video game movies they didn't get the budget, they didn't get like good actors, directors. Again, so we did have Van Damme, which whether he's a good actor or not, he's definitely a big known name in action. So I don't think
Yeah.
that's necessarily that bad.
He probably took up the majority of the budget.
Oh, I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Yeah, and then like really, I think like the best video game movie ever made up until like a few years ago was probably Mortal Kombat that we mentioned earlier. And
No,
and Mortal Kombat wasn't like that great a movie in general. I thought it was pretty good overall, but it wasn't like a great movie by any means.
I'm sure there
but it
are
was-
some video game movies that we're forgetting, but because I definitely know that Mortal Kombat is not the best movie.
Well, I mean, like since then, like recently we had the Mario movie, for example, which I don't think was a great movie, but it was fun and good quality in terms of like animation and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, but trust me, there's a whole bunch. I actually did this once with Justine. I was like, oh, most video game movies are pretty terrible, and I can't remember what one we were talking about specifically. But then I started like Googling, and I was like, holy crap, there's way more that were actually pretty good. So if I were to Google it again, then
They're out there, but like I said, up until recently, there wasn't a lot of notable ones. Let's just say that. But again, I think in general, like historically, they haven't gotten the budget and like the big names. And when I say the big names, I mean like more on the director, writer side, and producers.
well, let's take a
Because
look.
actors, you can do good, great things with actors that aren't known, for example, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think we already, running a little bit long on this episode. So, unfortunately, I don't know if we're gonna have time to talk about the antlers today.
No, I don't think we have time for that. I do
Yeah.
have to go. But maybe next
I'll tell you
time.
what we. Yeah, I'll tell you what we do have time for is for you to leave a like, a subscribe,
Yeah.
leave a comments. Which Street fighter are you?
Yeah, which one do
Are
you
you a
always
Guile? Are
play?
you a Bison?
Who's your main?
Yeah.
And
And what game? What game did you? Street Fighter 2? Was that your game, or are you into the more modern stuff? I don't know. Like I said, the only one I've really played is Street Fighter 2.
yeah, me too. I've since stopped playing fighters entirely.
Oh yeah.
They're
No, I
just
haven't
too
been into it for a long
difficult.
time.
These 12-year-olds online will just kick your ass.
Oh yeah. No, you gotta like dedicate basically a full time job playing those games
Basically,
at this
basically.
point. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it for today. Once again, I'm Matty,
I'm Patty.
and we just got chatty.
Take it easy, guys.
Ciao.